Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Elliot Grigg, and we're here in final prediction mode for tomorrow night's huge clash for the British and Commonwealth heavyweight titles. Huge domestic dust-up between Fabio Wardley and Frazer Clarke. Someone's always got to go, and yeah, I can't wait for this one. Elliot, first of all, let's jump straight in. I hope you're well, and we've done a big fight breakdown on this, I believe, both ourselves. So if you want to check us out going into more detail about this, check out the video on the channel. It was a good one. So yeah, let's jump in. The first question I want to ask you here, really, before we get into a final prediction, is discussing with Paul at the weigh-in reaction there, and I want to ask you the same. Is this a case of both men have just one way to win this fight? Is that what makes it so interesting? Is it a case of Frazer Clarke's only going to win this on points and Fabio Wardley has to knock out Frazer Clarke? Is that how you see it? Is it as simple as that, or could you see either or defeating the other man by other means?
Yeah, thank you, Noel. First off, yeah, thank you very much for having me. Obviously, thank you also for that eloquent introduction as well. I think you're spot on. Yeah, I actually do think you're spot on. Like you said, we did the breakdown where we analysed them with their like ways, methods of victory. To be honest with you, and nothing in that sense in my mind has changed. It's a case of, for me, can Clarke outbox him over 12 rounds? Can he keep him off him for 12 rounds? And for me, what will Wardley catch him at some point? Essentially, I think, to be honest, the main factor for me actually is the 12-round distance in this. Like if you look at obviously at Frazer Clarke, he's only been in kind of 10 rounders, 8 rounders to this point. Wardley knocked out pretty much everyone fairly early doors, apart from obviously the one points victory that he has got on his record. So for me, the distance is key here, the distance of the fight, and whether that works better for Wardley, whether that works better for Clarke. But I do totally agree with you. One way for winning. It'll either be Clarke points or Wardley KO. I don't see anything other than that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's highly likely that it's gonna pan out that way. I think, in particular for Fabio Wardley, I think if I had to pick, I'd say Frazer Clarke has more of a chance of knocking out Fabio Wardley, believe it or not, than Fabio Wardley has of outpointing Frazer Clarke. I'd be stunned if he was to outbox Clarke over 12. I really would. But I think, as I say, looking at the weigh-ins, Frazer Clarke has shaved off. I think he's been the lightest since his pro debut, which I think will lend itself to him thinking that he has to win this on points as well. To be honest, he has to use that kind of amateur background and that skill and to outbox Fabio Wardley and win a decision. So yeah, I totally agree. I think if it's gonna happen for either man, it's the opposite end of the scale. It's a points win or a KO. So yeah, that's what makes it so fascinating. I suppose this one is so intriguing. So let's get into, I suppose, predictions. As I mentioned, we've done the big fight breakdown where we analysed and gave kind of predictions earlier on. And I think yourself, you picked Fabio Wardley, if I'm not mistaken, if I can remember correctly. Are you still going Wardley in this one? Has your opinion changed since then, or let me know who wins this one and how?
You know what, Niall? My prediction is still Wardley, and actually, I'm gonna double down on there. Since I've wanted to build up to this as well, and since we had that big fight breakdown, which was obviously filmed, during the sort of camps and that anticipation of this fight as it was coming. But since seeing, the sort of face-offs, the weigh-in, I'm more of the opinion, the content, that we've obviously put out on the channel. Elliot Stock was there yesterday interviewing Fabio Wardley. And I just think, yeah, I just can't see anything past Wardley here. I really can't. And I think it comes in a little bit to kind of, like a little bit kind of looking at how Frazer Clarke has boxed before coming into this. And I have to kind of, I know there's been a lot of made about, amateurs versus like professional and all that sort of stuff. But I think Fabio Wardley's had 17 pro fights here. So I almost feel like at some point you've got to let that kind of amateur. I know they're kind of building it a bit, obviously, and they kind of like take, psychological advantage, but you've almost got to let that go. Like Frazer Clarke's only had 8. Fabio Wardley's had 9 more professional fights than him against arguably better opponents in more pressurized fights. I can think of that fight that he had against sort of Gorman, for example. Obviously, like he got rid of Gorman there, but at the same time, you can look at Gorman's career and go, okay, maybe it's not the fighter we thought it was. But at the time, he fought Fabio Wardley. That's a big fight for Fabio Wardley. One of those ones where it's like almost a pressure win to come through there. Molina, Nick Webb, even to a degree. So these sort of names, yeah, he's blowing them out of the way, and I kind of have to give him respect for that. So it's not, for me, it's not a case of he can't box just because he comes from white collar and he hasn't had that pedigree. And I look at Frazer Clarke. I'm not, to be honest with you, not been that impressed with his pro performances. So for me, I look at it and go, he's gonna have to up his game significantly to outbox Fabio Wardley over the distance of 12 rounds. And I just think at some point I've not seen the conditioning necessarily of Frazer Clarke either. Well, I think he could actually go 12 rounds. And I think Wardley's going to bite down and get him out of this perfect. I don't think it's going to be early. I think it'll be somewhere sort of 6+ second half of the fight, but I'd probably go somewhere sort of 7 to 9, 7 to 10 if I was thinking of when the stoppage would happen. But I do think Fabio Wardley's going to get hold of him at some point. I think he's going to stop him. I think Clarke will get tired. Both of them will get tired, but I think that's also when you'll see the power of Fabio Wardley come through. Then I think he'll get hold of him, quite frankly.
Yeah, you make really good points there. You'd almost convince me to kind of change my pick. You're so convincing because I picked Clarke, to be honest with you. But I have to agree with what you said in terms of, with the pro experience so far, Fabio Wardley is rightly the favourite for this one. Amateur is a different game, and Wardley has earned the stripes so far more than Frazer Clarke has. You mentioned the likes of the Nathan Gorman win or even the David Adelaide win, last time out, which are big wins for Wardley. And Clarke doesn't have wins on his pro record like that so far. So yeah, Wardley is rightly the favourite for what he's done in the paid ranks. I just think there is weakness there for Wardley, which is understandable. Boxing wise, there is weakness. Of course, coming up through the white collar, he doesn't have that kind of amateur pedigree or that skill and that Frazer Clarke does. And I think, as convincing of an argument as you made for Wardley, I'm going to stick with my pick from the breakdown. I'm going to go Frazer Clarke points. I think he will show what he's about. I think boxing skill will prevail. I think it'll set more traps and it'll set more traps. He'll pick Wardley off coming in and expose them shortcomings. I'm a Fabio Wardley fan, but I just think Frazer Clarke will be too clever for him. Just too experienced in boxing and too clever. So I'm going Frazer Clarke points. But yeah, it will be quite an interesting one. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me to see Wardley win this. I'm a big Wardley fan, how he's come up and the excitement he brings. But so it wouldn't surprise me to see him stop Frazer Clarke, to be honest with you. I think it's that close of a fight. So yeah, we're on opposite ends there. We're going Wardley and Clarke. We're split down the middle, which is I think a lot of people are with this one. So yeah, that's our predictions. But one thing I want to ask you just before we go, I'll leave you with this kind of quick one. We did touch on it in the breakdown as well. How far can you see the winner of this going? You pick Wardley. How far could you see Wardley go? Will he reach European level now? Obviously will be the next logical step after this. So could you see him picking up a European title or even pushing on towards world level? How high is the ceiling for Fabio Wardley here?
Oh, it's a tough question, I listen. I think to be honest with you, I'm still kind of the impression that these guys, this is a British Commonwealth fight, which I think is the level this fight is. I do agree with that. I think maybe either of them, if they push on, they could get a European belt. I don't see that being beyond the right possibility for either of the victors. World level for me is where I think it could be a bit of a struggle. I know Fabio Wardley's actually ranked, I think, something like sixth in the WBO rankings or something, which to me seems preposterously high. When you think there's like Hergovic is fifth, I think, and you got likes of Anderson, Sanchez, even so, I think it's higher up than Dubois in the rankings, which seems ridiculous in that respect. So for me, I still have big question marks around could they make that step level. To be perfectly honest with you, I mean, but, you look at like they'd have to come through even someone like I don't know, Makhmadov, Kabayel, even someone like a Bacoli, to sort of even sort of say they're kind of in that conversation. I don't think they are, even though they're higher up in the rankings. Fabio Wardley is. So for me, I think European level, yes, could definitely win a European belt. Could he be world top 10, top 15? Potentially. World title, world champion, no. But could he make the top 10 an absolute push? Possibly. But I still think relatively unlikely, but it depends on how the scene is. But we need to see him fight one or two guys that are around that level for us to even sort of entertain it as a conversation. At the moment, definitely not.
Yeah, I agree. I think European level is definitely within reach for the winner of this, whoever it may be. Fabio Wardley, he keeps defying the odds for how far he can go with how he started and, not even really expected to win British titles or Commonwealth. So he can definitely, he has the mentality to keep kind of defying those odds and push on even further. But who knows, it'll be interesting. Anyway, that's all we have time for here in our final prediction show for the huge heavyweight clash between Fabio Wardley and Frazer Clarke Sunday night, the O2 Arena. And yeah, don't forget, as always, drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube, follow on social media. A lot of great content coming up, especially from ringside for this one. We'll be there live, so plenty of interviews coming up. And yeah, Elliot, have a good one and thanks for coming on and take care.
Thank you very much, Niall. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching.
Cheers.